I would like to call to order the November 5th, 2020 Plan Commission meeting. Could I get a roll call, please, Brandy?
Yes. Brink.
Here.
Culhane.
Here.
Dargits Johnson.
Here.
Ford.
Here.
Oletzky.
Here.
Spire.
Here.
And Dolly and Kays are absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Third item on the agenda is invitation for public comment. If there's anything not on the agenda that someone from the public wishes to talk about, there'll be time at the end, and please submit that information to Brandy or someone else, other city staff. Item number 4 is the approval of the agenda. Could I get a motion in a second?
And I am going to make one change to the agenda. We are going to strike item 6C, which on your agendas that were sent out, you don't have that. So you can see up here this item. So this was the approval of the proposed Stony Point Rural Road design to support local commercial traffic of 2,500 vehicles per day or less. And so we are striking that. The preliminary plan was approved already on June 18th by the Plan Commission. So now staff is working with the applicant. And I don't know if Heath wants to expand on that at all, or if you guys have questions.
Yeah, I can expand on that briefly, Brandy. We've been provided more information from the applicant's engineer on the selected street section that they proposed back at the preliminary plan phase. So we feel that we can go through the rest of the construction plan review with this additional information. The reason this was placed on the agenda was concern for a potential need for a variance in the street width. We don't know whether that's absolutely necessary or not until we review the additional information we've received from their engineer. So we will review that information. If there is still a need for a variance in the street width, the city engineer has the ability in our engineering design standards to issue such variance. But based on previous board discussions, knowing full well the board might have interest in any variances the city engineering office is issuing, if it comes to that, I would bring that information forward to the board and share that with you at a later date.
Thank you for that. Hearing that, is there a motion to approve the agenda as modified?
Ford moves.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Spire.
Yes.
Oletzky.
Yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Dargits Johnson.
Yes.
Culhane.
Yes.
Brink.
Yes. All right, modified agenda has been approved. Moving on to item number 5 is the approval of the minutes from the October 22nd, 2020 meeting. Could I get a motion and a second, please?
Ford moves.
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Brink.
Yes.
Culhane.
Yes.
Dargits Johnson.
Yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Oletzky.
Yes.
Spire.
Yes.
All right. Minutes have been approved. Moving on to item 6A, part of our regular agenda, is commission consideration on resolution number 2020-57, an amendment to the zoning designation of PUD, Plan Unit Development for Williston Edition. Brandy, will you take over and fill us in?
Yes, thank you, Brink. So this is an amendment to the PUD designation that was approved in 2014 when this property was annexed. So the purpose of the PUD was to allow for personal storage facilities. So what we're doing today is the applicant, Scott Munger, with Midwest Condos. No? Okay, all right, it's just Scott Munger. And so he's asking for the allowance of single-family residences in units 15, 16, and 17, which are located in the southernmost building, and this is a new construction. We permitted it this summer. I'll pull up that so you guys can see where these units are located. Okay. So along Highway 139, and then so this is oriented. So north is over here and south is over here. So it'll be 15, 16, and 17. And then they are going to be, they'll have the proper fire protection, and they have been working with Chip, the fire marshal, on including sprinkler systems, and then also separate ingress and egress. So they'll have doors to the south side, so they will not be entering through the garages. So it'll be protected for life safety. And also, so these are adjacent, this PUD is adjacent to R1 single family residential district. So that's what he's asking for here. And everything, so the units themselves are going to be 28 by 56 with 16-foot sidewalls, which still meet what an attached garage in the R1 district would be. The max you can have in the R1 district for an attached garage for size is 42 by 56. So you can see he is under that. So he is meeting that requirement if he were zoned R1. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
They're going to enter these from the south. They're going to enter these from the south side. Kind of looks like that's a drainage ditch on the south side. Where are they going to park at?
So they'll actually, the garage doors will open to the north.
Yeah.
But then there will be a door, and Scott did provide me some drawings that I can pull up if necessary. So the garage doors will be here, if you can see that, with a door. And then this will be a garage. Let me just pull those up. That might be helpful.
Oh, and then the living area will be above that.
It'll be on the south side of that, and then it'll be 2 stories. Here, let me get this.
Fire Marshal, Bonnie, just so you know, just think of a townhouse.
Yeah.
Townhouse construction, proper separation between
Yeah.
the living quarters and the garage. And then also that door going out to the south is just a requirement from the code standard.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can't have your only exit through the garage, so.
Okay, that makes sense to me, because when she said they'll enter from the south side, it's like, so they're going to park on the north side and walk all the way around.
No,
So,
sorry.
okay, so is there going to be apartment or living quarters above the garage too?
No.
No.
So
Okay.
you'll see here that it'll be the garage, and then they'll have living quarters on the main level, and then the second story will be only above the living quarters. And then, so that secondary door is just in case something would,
Oh, yeah, you have to have 2 exits. I agree with that 100%. Where's their utilities at?
they actually run them along the north side of the garages. So right here you can see.
No, I'm talking about like their individual furnaces and stuff.
Oh.
And, water heater, where's that at?
Looks like the utility room might be here.
So if the board is to approve this amendment, that would only allow living quarters in those 3 units. They wouldn't be allowed to expand and use any other portion of this PUD as living quarters, correct?
Correct. And they clarify that, and they have amended their covenants. So then it does specify that it is just those 3 units in that most southern building, and then the rest of them will remain personal storage facilities. And then also they have in there where it's specific that you cannot have like a commercial business located in there either. It's just for storage, other than these 3 units, asking for the single family residential units.
So, this is Ford. So we're not rezoning this as R1, it's remaining a PUD, is that correct?
Yep.
And so I've not seen this come before the board before, so I'm a little confused. An amendment to the zoning designation, asking for this, I mean, it seems like it's similar to what we just handled in the Board of Adjustment. I don't understand why this is coming to the Plan Commission and why it's not some sort of conditional use.
It is a type of, because this is a zoning, so the PUD is a zoning designation, and so this is an amendment to that. So it is in theory, or in essence, it's a rezone. And so then it has to come to, a rezone has to come to the Plan Commission and then City Council for 2 hearings.
So if it's a rezone, will it essentially anybody who comes for a PUD zoning designation, will this be included in anybody's PUD zoning designation then?
No, I'll answer that one. So the whole purpose behind the PUD zoning district is to allow an applicant to create an area of land that kind of has its own rules. So every PUD has its own rules, and this one was done back in 2014, partly because they wanted to condo plat it out, and that what that did at that time is it created individual ownership into parcels of the larger shed that were smaller than what was allowed for legal lot size. So the approval of this PUD was specific to this area of land, and it allowed for the storage units as built. There are other PUDs around town that are specifically designed for residential use. Can't think of the name of the zoning or of the addition, but
Summerwood.
well, Summerwood's one. I was thinking of the one on the east side of 19th Street where there isn't sidewalks. That was kind of one of the sidewalks are behind the buildings, behind the houses. Dakota Commons, thank you. Yeah, Dakota Commons was another PUD, and that was another area or another example where there are different rules that are specific to just that area. Northridge Edition is another one where we have specific side yard setbacks and lot size setbacks that are specific just to that area. So whatever amendments we make or we approve at this meeting or future meetings on this PUD will only be resided within this PUD itself.
Thank you for that explanation. That's really helpful. So I will ask then another question. Will children be living in these single-family residences
Potentially.
in the middle of this whole area that's essentially storage units?
Yeah.
And I will, I'll open up the public hearing, if the applicant wants us to come forward and, speak on that. I know he has some covenants written, so I'll let him introduce himself and speak on that a little bit.
Do you want to read them?
Where's the... It's on. Scott Munger, developer on this property. I mean, great questions. And number one, this is a different idea. I seem to be a glutton for punishment, that I'm the one who likes to bring new, fresh ideas. And I can tell you that this is an idea that I'll be bringing throughout the state of South Dakota. It's a spin on tract housing. It's a spin on townhomes and that side. Huge demand from baby boomers, from single individuals, from contractors looking for something on this note. But if you read through the covenants, which I don't know if everybody has, we tie this down really tight. Could there be children potentially in this area? But this area is surrounded by ag land and surrounded by R1. And that's the only reason I thought it would make sense. PUDs are fully custom, so this is something we're we're asking. I wouldn't have put this in a commercial zone. I agree with you on commercial space. It doesn't make sense. And this, if this is moving forward, it needs to be in the right areas for that safety. But one of the tie downs in number 4, the first thing is said occupation shall not be by more than 4 people, all of whom must be related by the first degree of continuity. And that's one of the reasons we tie that down so we can limit some of that. I don't want this to be a dorm. And we did that. We tied down parking. If you read through these covenants, they're very restrictive. And there's a reason. I live 100 yards from this place, and I have a unit in this place. I wanted to bring this forward in this realm to judge interest, and I've got a waiting list. And so but it needs to be done right. And that's why I've worked with Chip from day one to make sure everything meets codes, fire codes, because I'm sure there's people doing this that aren't doing it right. But that's what it's looked like. It's going to be a garage in front. They're going to build living quarters in the back, covered patios in the back. This is basically a larger garage track house. That's what this is.
And these are going to be sold.
Everything's sold. No businesses can be run. No commercial.
No rental units.
No.
Okay.
That's part of the covenants. Correct.
And why in this PUD? Why not make a whole new PUD then? Why not just stick with garages here?
Because this was a separate lot that we were going to develop. I wanted to try it with one building. As you can imagine, the cost on doing something like this is tremendous. We had the land, and it fit in this area due to the fact of location, where it's at via residential and ag.
This property, to shed a little bit of history on this, back in 2014, this originally came proposed to us as a C3 zoning district to do these storage units. And the board at that time felt that they didn't want commercial in what was a residential neighborhood and what our future comprehensive land use plan had designated as residential. So the PUD was designed to keep it as residential as possible at that time, allowing for, storage of people's individual toys, boats, RVs, that sort of thing. So the idea behind this, when it was created a little over 6 years ago, was residential in nature. And me personally seeing this and reading through the covenants, I feel that is in line with how we felt 6 years ago.
I have one question for you, Scott. What about that lot 18 right there on the east side of 17?
That's my personal unit. 18 is.
Okay,
on the
and
west
that
end of
one's
that.
not going to be developed into
No.
a townhouse?
I mean, I'm going to have it to code.
Yeah.
I found that out last week. Thanks, Chip. It's going to have sprinklers where I could do that, but no intentions.
But it's going to be storage on that
Mine?
part. Yeah, yours is.
Yeah, and personal use, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And one more piece is if you guys drive by these areas and look at them, part of that PUD was this looks like a home. It is all cultured stone, siding. I mean, this is not I mean, it's got overhangs, it's got covered patio type stuff. It's, done like a home.
So the building will change shape, or will you have a 2-story also on lot 18? Or unit 18, I should say.
Good question. Everything in the building is 16-foot sidewalls with a vault. And so some individuals, the ones that are living there, chose to do a 2-level in their living quarters. Mine will just be from floor to ceiling, open. I'm using it for storage and a gym for my kids.
It's one way of getting them out of the house, right? Go across the street.
Wear off some energy.
So in the event you sell your unit off, those people would have the opportunity then to finish units?
Not unless they updated the covenants and had them approved and passed.
Okay.
Right
Because
now,
you're-
it's those 3 units.
Those 3 units.
The public hearing is open. If there's anyone else who wishes to speak on behalf or against this, please feel free to approach the mic or speak online.
Mr. Chairman, If I may, just expand a little bit on what Brandy had outlined. The several things that staff looked at when we get a proposal like this. First of all, we review this as an amended PUD plan. Kind of like what you talked to Chairman Brink on, what the intention behind a PUD zoning district is. There's always a plan associated with that PUD zoning. And so we view this as an amended PUD plan. And in this case, they have covenants that also go with that specify all the details of and limitations and allowances for this area. But the things that we look at just to make sure that because a PUD can be a mixed use and it can be a conglomeration of different things that maybe we're not accustomed to from a zoning standpoint, we do still look at the life safety components that fire marshals checked off on, making sure that fire separation rules are met, the sprinklered requirement, if it's triggered, is met. The garage sizes, we look at these kind of like has been described as a townhouse. We want to make sure that the garage limitations aren't being exceeded. All the things like that, the ingress and egress for the living quarters meets the building code requirements. And so I just wanted to point all that out and let you know that we did check all that off at a staffing level, and it did meet all those individual requirements as we walk through this with the applicant's information they provided. So.
Thank you for that. It's good information for us to know as we consider this.
In your covenants, I assume you address snow removal for those 3 people that would be living there?
Yeah. So how that works is similar to other tract housing or apartment type units. We have an association that runs the whole area. So everybody pays an annual association fee, which covers lawn, maintenance, sweeping, garbage, snow removal, etc. And every member must join the association as mandated, or you can't purchase a unit.
So I can't buy a unit and rent it out to someone else?
No, nor run a business.
Is there any other questions for the applicant, or I'll ask one more time if there's anyone else to speak on behalf or against this item? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion and a second from the board.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion in a couple seconds, so is there any further discussion from the board?
This is Ford. I appreciate all the planning and work and discussion that has gone into this. I'm struggling with placing 3 residential units in this location with the storage buildings that are there and that are going to be built there. I recognize it's next to an R1, which is something, but I can't reconcile the appropriate placement of residential units right here.
So, Mr. Chair, this is Bill, and I'm looking at the county records here, and it looks like the PUD extends to a existing West Side Condominium Association just north of this request here. But it's separate from, Mr. Munger, it looks like you're separate from what's already established to the north of you, right?
Yeah, you can answer.
The development phase, I build them, and then when sold, it's part of the covenants that you have in front of you that they must join the association, or that's one of the stipulations of purchasing. So the association will control all common area as soon as the units are sold. None of the units are sold yet. That's why it shows in my name right now.
Right. No, that's for future development. I'm looking at existing structures, and it looks like as part of the zone already PUD, the northern portion of PUD is already an established condominium unit. It has a garage structure right there. Just to come, Lake Drive south comes in. So where you're looking at the access point to your development, there's already an established condominium unit right there just to the north of you.
Correct. We developed those in 2014.
Yeah.
And I did 2 lots. I did lot 1 and lot 2. Lot 1 we developed right away. Lot 2 we're doing right now.
So this is going to follow suit from that, is what you're proposing.
Identical.
Okay, thank you.
So for clarification, is there 3 PUD possibilities out there? Or is it, so the one, okay, so why are they divided into 3 blue lines on our?
Because those are how they're subdivided. So the zoning, it was annexed and zoned as one property, and then they subdivided it.
You have to have 5 acres contiguous for a PUD.
Okay, so the parcel that you be doing this project on is the one in the middle then, and then there's another unit to the south? Or
That's
another
our
section?
holding pond for drainage.
So that will never be developed?
It would be
Never
tough.
say never
It would-
around here, right?
It would be very tough to unless you have some nice stilts and a fishing rod.
When this property was annexed and zoned, and platted, it was platted with 3 lots, in it. That was the original plat, and the third lot did show, the storage of, the retention. Granted, that's because that's a wetland area, so that was all annexed and zoned. And like, Mr. Munger said, per our ordinance, we do require 5 acres of land to be considered for a PUD. So part of why all of that was annexed wasn't because they intended to build all of it at once, but because they needed to have the land requirements to meet those.
And the zoning is still applicable for that whole area.
Yep.
And so, and where the covenants point out too, so the only, even if he would build another unit to the south, it is specific to say that it is only units 15, 16, and 17 of Lot 2 with that address, 535 78th Street Southwest.
I'd kind of like to touch on Diana's comment of doing residential units above storage units. I agree with her that that's not something that we would typically want to do, but when we're doing a planned unit development, we're doing a development in which we allow the developer to do something that's different than what we would normally allow and different than what our normal rules would allow. So in a case like this, I think this is kind of a perfect area where we would try something new and see how it works, because this isn't something where we're setting a precedent. This isn't something where someone else with storage units could just say, hey, I want to do this. No, this is a designed, planned unit development. So if we were going to try it anywhere, I would think somewhere where we're able to have it planned out and have the covenants and have rules would be the place that we would want to try it and see if it is something that works for our community and is something that's desirable.
Scott, would you just put up a sign that says, no, you cannot do this?
What?
On yours, because if it passes, then we'll have everybody doing exactly what you're saying.
And Chip can probably speak to this. No, you won't, because it's a great. I want to say that in this small building, we're talking about 6,000 square feet of this building, maybe 7. I'm going to have scaring 6 figures of extra cost just to make this happen. So no, you won't, especially if they have to go back and retrofit an already built building that they're not building new. And if they build new, you're going to police the new construction. So that would be tough. Plus, as you just proved, it doesn't make sense in commercial areas. 100% agree with that. It needs to be specific, but I will tell you, you will see this a bunch in the future as this concept grows. It's growing tremendously in Sioux Falls area, the Schaus concept, the barn dominium concept. People want space for their toys, and there's no sense in wasting money and not living there. You're going to see this a lot. I'm doing it as a track house instead of one-off because it makes more sense. We're thinking about the next ones we do have common areas, have an area for people to go play cards and who knows where we're going to take this. But it's an idea. It's not just us, but it's an idea that people are talking about. Now to second Jeff, exactly spot on. If you look at this, we're not building living quarters above a garage. We're separating living quarters from the garage aspect. The garage is just the front portion of this. There's firewalls fully separating all living area, just like it would be in your home.
But why this spot? Why not just take another PUD and do exactly these on that? Why mix them here?
Because it makes sense here. We're in R1. We have family all over out there. We actually have family events in this deal. Like I said, this area is treated as a family area. People have very extensive man caves. These are not storage shops. You guys can go out and look. And the people that afford these, they're not storage shops. They got couches and TVs, and I mean, this is a residential, but they can park their buses and toys and campers and boats and things like that in them also.
And not that this probably matters, but how many bedroom were the units that these three?
We police that also.
Two.
No more than 2 can be constructed, but all of these are 1. So none of them even went to that. Our covenant says 2 and 2 bath, and occupation shall be by no more than 4 people who all have to be fully related. I don't want headaches. This is our place. The individuals that are doing this, there won't be. And that's on us. I mean, we run the association. It's a fun area. Love you to drive by and check it out.
We do have a motion and a second on the table. If there's any further discussion or, yeah, go ahead if there's any further discussion. Hearing no more further discussion, I'll ask Brandy for a roll call vote.
Brink,
Yes.
Oletzky,
Yes.
Dargith Johnson,
Yes.
Ford,
No.
Spire,
Yes.
Culhane.
Yes.
5-1, motion passes. Moving on to item 6B of the regular agenda. Commission consideration of resolution number 2020-37, an amendment to chapter 24.06 subdivision procedure of the revised ordinances of the city of Watertown. Brandy, will you take that away?
Yes, thank you, Brink. So once again, the ordinance amendment to chapter 2406, which is the subdivision ordinance amendment, is in front of you for action, hopefully. So we have been working hard, and I appreciate all the feedback that I've received from the Plan Commission and staff, and also from engineers and developers from town that have taken the time to provide some feedback. So what we have in front of you is, for the most part, all-inclusive. There are 2 items that I want to address, and Scott ran off with my agenda packet that I had circled. So bear with me for a moment to find those places. Okay, so one is the concept plan under streets. So where it says, and let me pull that up and then share with everybody. Okay, so under the street plan, so that's under concept plan. Yep. That thing is blocking it. What a pain. Okay. So concept plan 240603, and then under streets, and then C, if we strike streets and just say the right-of-way widths, because they'll be able to, when we're looking at it as a concept plan, The developer will know if it needs to be, will most likely know if it's going to be a local collector or arterial. But saying streets at this time and their widths is, I think, just too much detail. So if we just say right-of-way widths and strike the street and then the other change was,
If I can interject one comment there. An alternative to that, the concern was if we're indicating street widths at the concept plan, and there may not be adequate traffic study information or traffic generation information yet at this point in the process. That's one of the concerns on identifying and locking in what that street width is being proposed at this point in the process. The one alternative we could entertain, and I'd offer to the board, is to keep street widths indicated on there if variance of meeting any minimum street width requirements is being proposed. We would want to see those identified at the concept level. So rather than striking it completely, maybe it's more appropriate to state that street widths are required if a variance is being sought for any street width requirements.
but then I suppose too, sorry, we didn't get a chance to discuss this one. But I suppose we could leave it in there because it should follow our engineering design standards. And then we do have in there under general that they do have to disclose if they're asking for a variance. So maybe it is fine to leave as is. Do you think that's okay, Heath?
I do, because in number 1P, right above streets, that is the disclosure of proposed variances, where we explicitly require that. And so I'm okay with that too. If it was just food for thought based on recent discussions with other preliminary plans and how street widths are identified and at what point they're formally checked off on. I think that's the larger discussion that we're trying to wrap our minds around here, making sure we're setting this up in an appropriate way for the developers and for the boards and for staff. So if the board still desires to want to see street widths at this phase, we can certainly keep that in there. We do already require that variances be identified per item 1P, right above the street section there. So we'll leave that on the table there for discussion. But then the last point I wanted to make too, that we could add to number 2, streets. We could add, and I'm proposing we do add that the type of street section being proposed is also included at the concept phase. That being whether it's an urban street section or a rural street section. I think that would be an appropriate piece of information at the concept phase level.
So should we add that as item E?
Yeah, I would propose recommending adding that as 2E.
So yeah, we can discuss what the first item was, but otherwise you can kind of forget about that one and just focus on the 2E, and that will say the type of street section. And then the other one that I wanted to point out that we changed in the meantime from when you received your packet was for drainage and grading. It said under 5C, we changed it to say existing contours and proposed cut and fill. We had an engineer and surveyor reach out because we were proposing it to say existing and proposed contours, and then got into how many, I'll bring that one up, what it was before. So they had a hard time because the proposed contours is really something that they'll iron out during the preliminary plan phase. So as long as they are aware of what the existing grades are and how obviously they're going to take that into account when they're designing, and then they're just going to identify for us where the areas will be cut, where there will be cut or fill, so we can kind of see how that's all going to work together. So we thought that was more appropriate. So that is one other change that has happened since the agenda packet came out. So for the motion, we would recommend adding 2E and obviously there can be discussion still. And maybe let's have discussion, and then when you guys are ready to make a motion, I can recommend that.
All right, Thank you, Brandy. And I'll go ahead and open the public hearing right away on this. But if there's anyone, that has any thoughts or comments they'd like to make, please feel free to come to the podium and make those, or if you're online, make those. And of course, the board, feel free to ask questions as well, so.
Mr. Chairman, can I provide a little context here in the public comment period? So just to kind of paraphrase what we're doing here, just for the public's understanding, is we've got a development review process in hand today that we're trying to make improvements on in order to shift some of the heavy lifting in the design work and where that more costly effort, what point in the process are those costs going to be incurred. We're talking about a lot of design costs for engineering, consultant engineering fees and things of that nature, but then also balancing out this process to make sure that the board has enough information at hand in order to make approvals. And so one of the biggest changes is we're taking the prelim plan that used to be approved by the board, by the planning commission, and we're putting a lot of those components into the concept plan, and now making the concept plan the step that will go to the planning commission for approval. The more detailed prelim plan pieces of information are going to be broken down and still required as part of a preliminary plan, but that'll be on a per phase basis. So let's say you have a 40-acre subdivision that's residential, for example. The concept plan will show that 40 acres, how it's going to be laid out, where the streets are going to go, where the lots are going to be configured, access onto current street networks, utility extensions, things of that nature, on a conceptual design level. And then once that's approved, the developer will be able to drill down to phase one and submit a preliminary plan for phase one that goes into a lot more level of detail that we as staff will then review and approve at a staff level administratively. That's one of the big changes here that we're accomplishing with this amendment. And I lost my train of thought on the second point I was going to make. But overarchingly, the goal here being to help make the process a little bit more streamlined, look at where we're putting the depth of attention for some of these requirements, making sure that's in an appropriate spot. And then the other piece of information I was going to add, the context behind how this all started and why we're going down this path. I think it's no secret that in the city of Watertown we've been striving to update, improve, polish our development review processes. And that's, I know, a big initiative that the mayor is trying to help accomplish and has put steering committees together in the past. This particular committee, the development committee that we've been working with, has been a branch of one of the mayor's previous committees that Chris Shilkin, Watertown Development Company, has taken the reins on and helping organize development. Help me with the title of that committee, Brandy, please.
Development Task Force.
The Development Task Force. And that task force includes members of the community that are active developers, consultant engineers, Chris Shilkin himself from Watertown Development Company, city staff. And so a lot of these changes were incubated in that committee, in those committee meetings, and thought through and talked about how we can make some of these improvements. So I think that that's an important component that I wanted to make sure that everybody understood as we're taking action on this or considering action on this, that it was well thought out in a community effort to help make these improvements happen. So with that, I'll pass it back over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Van Eye, for that explanation. And you're absolutely right. I mean, this has been a long time coming. We've had complaints in the past that sometimes the developer has to spend a lot of money, before they get to us, and they spend a lot of money designing streets and designing drainage, and then they come to us and it's the first time we're seeing it. So hopefully this is a way that they can kind of get their ideas to us, but without having all of the costs, so that way we can at least let them know if we're on board and need more information, or if they need to find a different route. So I appreciate all the hard work staff has done preparing this. I mean, this is a big document, a lot of changes, and it's been in the works for a long time. So I appreciate you guys' effort, and this does look really good reading through this.
I just have a quick question for you, Keith. On the concept plan, so when I bring my plan in and have an idea of what I think I want to do, and then I get that approved by the board here, right? And then I go back home and then I change. How much change can I make to that before it has to come back in front of the board?
That's a great question. We do have a section in here that addresses that as far as revisions to a concept plan. I don't know, Stacy,
Yeah.
did you want to touch on that?
Sure. I do have this section handy. It's 24.0610. It's called Amendments to a Preliminary Plan. So that is a great question, Commissioner. Related to any changes. So minor changes shall include but are not limited to a change in the local street pattern, street name, lot lines, development phases, subdivision name, rights-of-way widths, easements, or lot and block numbers. So those are minor changes that could be reviewed at the staff level, I believe. But then major changes would require a revised concept plan, which would come back through to the Planning Commission for review and approval. And those major changes shall include but are not limited to a change in major street pattern, drainage ways or detention pond locations, other public open space locations, or perimeter boundaries. So that's how it's written currently.
So Commissioner, to your question, in the review of the preliminary plan for a particular phase, we would be looking at how that is in alignment or not in alignment with what was approved at the concept plan phase. And then using this section 240610 as a guide to know at a staff level when we need to take something back to the board, or the applicant needs to take something back to the board because they're triggering a major change to the previously approved concept plan.
And that language is also consistent from what is currently in ordinance, so that stayed the same for when a preliminary plan has to come back to the Plan Commission. So now, because the concept plan is what's being approved by the Plan Commission, now that's also included in the concept plan as well as reiterated in the preliminary plan.
So another item that always is a bone of contention is when we're okaying these plans, the park designation. Seems like we chase our tail on that. At what point, will that be in the concept plan or will that be in the preliminary plan? So that we aren't going back and saying, okay, where's our park? I mean, is that addressed in any of this?
So that would be a part of the concept plan, and it actually is in Title 14, which that's something that also needs to be amended because that is where it's not clear. But we would look at it, if they're proposing residential zoning, we would look at where that park is going to be located in the concept plan phase. I hope that we
I just know that that's
explicitly
been
say
one that has always come back and we say, oh, we forgot about a park.
So we do say the locations and sizes of all the public facilities, schools, libraries, fire station, parks, tree masses, and other significant natural features. So when they are proposing a residential zoning designation, we would make sure the park is included. And then also, so in Title 14 is, they say that upon annexation or platting, that's where that could be tightened up.
And isn't it true that in Title 14 that the park board actually has to vote and approve the park locations?
Yep.
So it's, they're supposed to actually kind of help determine where that park goes, and it's not supposed to fall on us as much, so.
Right.
Brandy, could you touch on that process how it currently unfolds? The parkland dedication, if I'm correct, would go to the park board for recommendation and approval prior to us bringing a concept plan forward to the Planning Commission. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Are there any other comments or questions to the staff? And keep in mind, the public hearing is open, so if anyone from the public has any comments or questions, feel free to chime in. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion. But before I ask for the motion, maybe Brandy could help us on that motion, just because I know there were a few changes that she wanted us to recommend.
And so the agenda was updated within 24 hours to include the sheet that I passed out to you guys. So that will be the resolution that you are acting on that does have all the updates that I described. The only one that we'll need to say, so when you say I move to approve resolution number 2020-37, with also adding 21, let me go down to it.
The 2E type of street section, right?
Yep. So to add 240603 2E to identify the type of street section.
I'll make that motion. There.
I'll second that.
All right, that worked for you guys? That motion said what you said? All right, well, we have a motion and a second on the table. Is there any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, I will ask for a roll call vote, please, Brandy.
Spire,
Yes.
Culhane,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Dargis Johnson,
Yes.
Oletsky,
Yes.
Brink.
Yes. 6-0, motion passes. Seventh item on the agenda is open public comment. Did we receive any?
No.
All right, moving on, we'll go to item number 8, new business. Do you have any new business for us?
None that I have.
All right, moving on to item number 7, or no, excuse me, number 9, old business. Do we have any old business?
None that I have.
Hearing none, I'll move on to item number 10. Any reason to go into executive session?
Nope.
All right, then we'll move to item 11, adjournment. So I will adjourn this meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you.